Hey, Vlad here, devinside.com. Welcome to another video. In the previous video, we had some sort of like a power user look at Bash and ZSH, and today we're going to uninstall ZSH and Oh My ZSH, install them from scratch, look at their configurations, install plugins, and do all sorts of cool things. So let's get right to it. As in most of my videos, I'm on Windows 10 and I'm using an Ubuntu 18.04 which runs inside of a virtual machine. And I'm also using the Windows 10 feature called Virtual Desktops, which gives me shortcuts to switch between my virtual desktops. And so I can go to Windows like this and I can go back to Ubuntu like this. Now, replacing your default shell can be very scary, and this is exactly why we're here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to launch the terminal. As in the previous video, it runs ZSH, which is fully configured with all of my settings, with all of these cool things. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to uninstall everything. So Oh My ZSH, which is the configuration manager for ZSH, comes with a command called uninstall Oh My ZSH. And by the way, as a reminder, so first of all, I have two plugins over here that you already see for ZSH. The first one is basically syntax highlighting for the for the commands that you type, and the other one is basically a history command, right? So it already looked in there, and if I press right, on the arrow key to the right, then it will just autocomplete that, right? So if you just type in that, as you can see, it's green, so it shows me that this is a real command. I type in that. It asks me, are you sure? I type in Y, I press enter. Yes, I'm sure. This is my password. Okay, so it says, thanks for trying out Oh My ZSH. It's been uninstalled. Don't forget to restart your terminal. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go a step further, and I'm going to go and I'm going to do sudo apt remove -y zsh. And as you can see, I was practicing inside of this VM, so I don't even have to type anything, right? So this is like the power of ZSH, okay? Sudo apt remove -y zsh, and I'm going to type in my password. And it's going to be removed in a couple of seconds. Come on. There we go. And as you can see, we're still inside of ZSH because it's still kind of like in memory. Okay. So if I press Control D and press Control Alt T, we will see that this is the terminal which runs Bash. I should still have my zshrc file, which is the file with all the settings. So I'm just going to type rm.zshrc just in case. Okay. So now it's gone. Now I have Bash. However, if I type in echo shell, right, it will still say that this is ZSH, and for this we need to log out to be sure that that it's completely gone. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to say log out over here, and I'm going to press on my username in just a second. Come on, my username, there we go, my password, and I'm going to cut this out of the video. For some reason it needs like 5 seconds or something to start. I have no idea why it needs so long. All right, there we go, it finally started. So if I do Control Alt T, now we see Bash again, and if I do echo shell, right, it's going to say that my default shell is actually bin bash. All right, so that wasn't so hard, was it? Right, so if if you're not happy with ZSH or Oh My ZSH, this is how you uninstall it. Okay, so now let's install it again from scratch. Sudo apt install -y. As you can see, this is bash, so there's no syntax highlighting, there is no history autocompletion, nothing like that. Okay, ZSH, and by the way, -y says say yes to everything, but for small tools like ZSH, it's actually unnecessary. Okay. So we're going to install ZSH, and I still don't have internet, right? So I'm on a tethered connection, so let's see how fast it's going to be. But it feels like it's actually fast enough, okay? So now I have ZSH installed. However, it's not my default shell, right? So for example, I can do echo shell. Still going to say that this is bash. Okay, I can restart the terminal, and I'm still having bash, right? So this is my the regular bash prompt. Now, even though ZSH is not your default shell, it is still installed. So you can type in ZSH, press enter, and now it's going to drop you into ZSH. Believe it or not, this is how ZSH looks like by default. I'm going to press Control L. Now everything's gone. Press enter. So this is the default prompt of ZSH. In fact, I'm going to press Control D, and now I'm back in my bash. And by the way, I have a script I'm going to show it to you in a couple of minutes that actually installs ZSH and then Oh My ZSH on top of it. And the thing is that when you install Oh My ZSH, it will actually ask you if you want to have ZSH enabled as your default shell, and then you can just say yes. But if you're new here, you probably don't know this, but I like to go in depth, and I like to sort of show like what is happening behind the scenes. So if we do which ZSH, it will actually show you that this is where ZSH is. In fact, if I go into ZSH and I type in where ZSH, we will see that there is also another one, right? So you can grab any of them. For this video, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to grab, for example, this one. I'm going to copy that. Now press Control D, so now I'm in Bash. Okay, so what you can do is you can type a change shell without sudo, right? So change shell, this is like your shell, and you say you specify the shell, right? And you just paste, what I just copied. Okay, so now this is going to be the default shell. I'm going to type in my password, right? But if I do echo shell like this, it's still going to be bin bash, and it's the same issue as before. So what we need to do is so if I'm doing Control D, Control Alt T, it's still bash, right? So we need to log out again. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to log out over here like that. I'm going to log back in my password. I'm going to cut this out from the video. All right, so now if I press Control Alt T, we're going to see that this is now ZSH because this is now the default shell. So if I do echo shell like this, it's going to say bean ZSH, right? And you can always do which bash, and you can always go back manually. But as you have seen, just uninstalling ZSH will actually fix this thing, fix this problem for you. Also, there is a file called etc shell. So if you can cut into etc shells, you're gonna see that this is all the shells that I have on my system, right? So I have Tmux, I have Biobu, I have Screen, I have all sorts of things. Okay, I'm gonna press Control L. Okay, so now you could go into your home folder, which is where I am right now. I'm actually going to go into full screen. Okay, so I'm going to press Control L. I'm going to press ls-al, and at the bottom, we should see. So you see like Z profile and ZSH history and all of these things, but there is no .z profile. Okay, and you can go and create it manually. And this is the file which is going to store all of your configuration. And then you can go through man pages, or you can Google around which kind of settings ZSH has. But it's much more convenient to just install Oh My ZSH, which will come with a bunch of default configurations for you, and it will know how to manage themes for you, how to manage plugins, and so on. So let's actually switch to my Windows over here. I'm going to go into my browser, and I'm going to type in Oh My ZSH. So I'm just going to Google for that. I'm going to click over here. So this is Oh My ZSH, which basically says that this is a community, let me zoom in a little bit, delightful community-driven blah 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 framework for managing your ZSH configuration. In any case, if you go down and you find the install, so if you have curl, you can do this. If you have wget, you can do this. I have both of them, but I'm going to do wget. So I'm copy that. Basically what it's doing is it downloads a script, and then it basically runs it. Technically, it runs it immediately without downloading it, but it doesn't really matter. So let's just go back. I'm just going to type that over here. I'm going to press and enter. So now it's going to start downloading stuff for me. As a reminder, I'm on a Tether connection, so it's actually going to take a little bit longer probably. So ZSH is managed by a Git repository, right? So it's basically doing just a Git clone. And by the way, I have Biobu also installed. So what just happened was it started Biobu. Okay, so I'm going to ignore Biobu. I have videos about that. If you don't care about that, just ignore what just happened. It's not going to happen for you. Okay, I'm going to press Control D. Right, so now it's gone. Control Alt T, starts a new terminal, and now you see that the prompt looks different, right? So what happened was that a folder was created called Oh My ZSH in my home directory. It has a bunch of things. We're going to look inside a bit later. And it has plugins, and it enabled already a plugin for you. In fact, this is not a plugin. This is what's called a theme. And a theme in the ZSH world pretty much means how your prompt looks like. What colors it uses, what information it shows it to you. So as of right now, it shows me that the command that we ran, it actually succeeded, which is why the arrow is green. And it also shows me that I'm in my home directory, right? So if I press Control C, this arrow should turn red, right? So it basically tells me, something went wrong, but I'm still in the home directory, right? So if I go into dev, for example, it's going to look like this. And if I go into call tab like this, it's going to see, oh, this is actually a Git, a Git directory. So it shows me a bunch of stuff, right? So we're going to talk about this in just a couple of seconds. Before that, I actually want to show you my, first of all, I want to show you my script. And second of all, I want to show you that Oh My ZSH will actually ask you if you want to enable ZSH by default. So in our case, we did this manually, but I don't want you to do this manually, okay? So what we're actually going to do is, I'm actually going to go over here. And I'm actually going to uninstall everything again. So I'm going to uninstall all my ZSH. Yes, I'm sure. And this is my password. And I'm also going to do, okay, I'm not going to remove ZSH because this is not what I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the shell to, where was it? Which bash? Yeah, bin bash. Okay, so I'm just going to change the shell. In fact, maybe I can just do change shell and then tab -s bin bash. Okay, so this is going to be my shell like this. Also, I'm going to remove the zshrc file. By the way, Oh My ZSH just created a zshrc file for me, and if I had a file already, it would back it up, and I believe it will also source it at the end of what it created. Okay, so I'm going to remove the zshrc, close that, restart the terminal, right? So I still have ZSH, okay, because I need to log out, that, log out, log out, log back in, like this. All right, we're back inside. I'm going to do Control Alt T, and we see the regular bash shell. If I do echo shell, we're going to see bin bash again. And by the way, I actually have decided that I will also remove ZSH like this. Okay, so that's also removed because what I want to do is I want to go into my Windows real quick while it's still running. Let's just go there, and I have a subdomain called install.devinside.com, and it just redirects to my GitHub repository and searches for all the repositories that begin with install hyphen, right? So it's going to take a second. Because I'm on a Tether connection, and it has like a bunch of these things, and one of them is ZSH. You can actually even go and do install devinside.com and do /ZSH, and it will find the repositories that begin with install ZSH, right? So these are a couple of plugins that we're going to install later, actually. So I'm actually going to open this one. I'm going to go over here, and if you're new here, all of them are structured in such a way that you just copy 2 lines, and they copy this this script over there, they make it executable, and they just run it. Okay, so I'm going to copy these 2 lines. I'm actually going to go into the script just so that you know what we're actually doing. So all it's doing is it installs wget, it installs git, and installs zsh, right? Because you actually need git for Oh My ZSH. I kind of forgot to mention this. And then it pretty much installs Oh My ZSH for you, right? So it does the same wget. As you can see, it just fetches it for you, right? So just copy these 2 lines. Let me actually go back there, right? So it's these 2 lines. I just copied them. I go back over here. I'm going to press Control L. In fact, I'm going to maximize the screen. Press Control L again. I'm going to paste these 2 lines. I'm going to press Enter. I didn't even ask me for my password, but basically it installs ZSH. Then it's going to install Oh My ZSH, and it's going to sort of like, you know, Oh My ZSH after installation. It runs a tiny script which asks you, hey, do you want to enable ZSH? Yeah, by the way, look, it says looking for an existing ZSH config, and it didn't find anything, so it didn't have to back up anything. So it says using the Oh My ZSH template file and adding it to zshrc. Okay, time to change your default shell to ZSH. Do you want to change your default shell to ZSH? Yes, please. Okay, my password. Okay, we have this beoble thing again. Okay, let's close everything. Control Alt T, but same as always, right? So this is still bash, and if I do echo shell, right, we still see that there's bash. Same as before. This is going to be the last time that we're going to log out and log back in. There we go. All right, so we're back in here. I'm going to press Control Alt T, and we're going to see this thing over here, right? So if I do echo shell, now it's going to say that this is ZSH. So we have everything installed. Everything is configured properly. We're going to look into ZSH or .zshrc file a bit later, and you know, we're gonna play with it a little bit later. Okay. So as I already mentioned, this is the prompt, and this is the this is technically a theme. And Oh My ZSH comes with a bunch of themes, like more than 100, I believe. And the theme that is enabled by default is called Robbie Russell theme, and this is also the guy who created Oh My ZSH. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into cd dev calm. Okay, so this is a Git repository. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to so we're gonna do this thing that most ZSH tutorials do. They go into into the .zshrc file. In fact, let me actually spawn onto the terminal, and I'm going to open it in Sublime. Right, so in your home directory there is a .zshrc file. Okay, and by the way, now you're gonna see that my Sublime, the theme for my Sublime actually looks exactly the same as as my terminal. It might be a bit confusing. But whatever. Okay, so I started it, and I'm actually gonna put it on the left, maybe. Okay, and let's go to the terminal. I'm gonna put the terminal on the right. It doesn't want to be on the right, like this. Okay, so now it's on the right. Now you see that this is like the same theme, so it's kind of weird. Okay, Control L. Okay, so if I'm gonna go up, so as you can see, like Oh My ZSH created a .zshrc file, which is huge, right? So it's like 100 lines. A lot of lines are commented out, right? We're gonna go through this file a bit later, but if we start from at the top, we're going to see that it has the ZSH theme, and it's called Robbie Russell. And as in most tutorials about ZSH, we're going to do what this comment is saying. So we can just type in random, and now every time you spawn a new shell, right, Control Alt T, it's actually going to is it not random? Random. Did I not save it? I did save it. Was this one a random? Okay. So I cannot believe that this actually just happened, right? So I started, I said that the theme should be random. I started a new terminal, and the random generator generated, the same, Robbie Russell theme. Okay, I actually don't believe that this is what happened. Okay, somehow it was just like, I don't know, it was still saving the file or something. Okay, so basically every time you start a new terminal, you see a different theme. And as I already mentioned, the theme is basically how the prompt looks like. Okay, so like this, so now it looks like this. So what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to I'm going to close everything. So I'm going to do Control D, Control D. I'm going to leave this one. I'm going to close that one. Okay, so we're gonna have this terminal over here, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of bash scripting. I actually didn't show it to you in the previous video because I didn't really want to, but in this case, I'm actually gonna show it to you. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type in a for comprehension, and then I'm gonna notice, oh, this is actually a big command. So first of all, I'm gonna go into full screen, and then I'm gonna do Control X E, and now I'm inside of Vim, and Vim gives me syntax highlighting. Okay, this is just a little bit of bash scripting. So we're gonna do for I in a sequence of 5, right? So we're just gonna start at the gnome-terminal. Okay, by the way, I'm not a Vim wizard, so I don't know many. Okay, so whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna do done over here like this. Okay, so now I'm gonna escape colon WQ, right quit, and I'm going to escape the full screen like this. So now if I'm going to press enter, it's going to loop 5 times, and it's going to execute the GNOME terminal command 5 times, which means it's going to spawn 5 terminals for me, right? And every time it's going to generate a new theme, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show it to you a little bit, right? So I'm going to go into full screen. Okay, so this is this theme. It basically shows you the folder on the left, and it's called, the Unraveler or whatever. And also, I believe you can at any time, right? So if I press Control L accidentally, and I'm like, oh my God, which theme was it actually? You can always do echo random theme. Okay, and it should have random if you type it correctly like this, random theme. It shows you, okay, so right now it's actually the Unraveler. Okay, so it seems like it just shows you the folder, and if it's a Git repository, it shows you that it's on the master branch. Okay, so it looks like this. Not really impressive. I'm gonna close this one. I'm gonna go into the next one. So this one is called JNROWE. Okay, so it shows you some weird symbol. By the way, a lot of themes, they actually require special fonts that know how to render special characters. We're gonna get to that a bit later. Okay, still shows you that that there's a Git repository. I actually kind of don't like it. All right, so this one, this one is actually interesting because this one is a multi-line thing, right? So every time you press enter, you actually have 2 lines. Okay, it shows me who I am, it shows me in which directory I am, it shows me the timestamp, right? It doesn't actually show me anything about Git. That's so weird. That's one of the few themes that actually doesn't show anything about Git. Which one is it actually? By the way, how about auto-completing my stuff? There we go. Okay, so this is something I can't read this. Okay, we've already seen this one. What about this one? Sunrise. Yeah. Okay. Not impressed. I'm not impressed. All right. So one of the popular themes is actually Agnoster. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do Control R subl zshrc. Okay, so I'm gonna open the file. What happened? What happened? Okay, so this is zshrc. Okay, so one of the common themes is called Agnoster. Agnoster, like this. Okay, so I'm just gonna close this one. I'm gonna press Control Alt T, and it basically looks like this. You might have seen it before. Okay, so if I'm gonna go into Def, Homegrown Collections, right? So it's gonna see, it's gonna show you like this, and it uses like these special characters over here, right? So this is basically your font needs to understand this character. Okay, so if I just copy that actually, and if I'm gonna do echo, I'm just gonna paste that, right? So it's basically okay. Copying didn't really work, right? So it's basically just a character, and your font needs to be able to render this. Okay, let's actually do touch blah because I'm in a Git repository, so it's gonna understand. Oh, there was a change. Okay, let's actually remove blah, and now it's now it's gone. Okay, yet another even more popular theme. And by the way, let me actually show you where they all are. So in the Oh My ZSH directory, there is a folder called themes, and if you do LL, you're gonna see like all of them, right? So they're all of these themes, and you could actually write a tiny bash script that will actually go through all of them and launch all of them, and then you can pick and choose. And I'm going to show you how to actually customize these themes a bit later. In any case, so it doesn't have like all the themes in the world. In fact, one of the most popular themes is actually not in here, and it's called Power Level 9K. So we're going to go back to Windows, and I'm going to Google for Power Level Oh my God. Okay, so there's also 10K. All right, so power level 9K, right? So this is a popular theme, so we're just gonna go down and we're gonna click on installation, and we're gonna it points so it heavily uses these these special characters, right? So it basically tells you also to install the so-called power line fonts, right? So these are basically regular fonts. There are a lot of programming fonts as well, and they have all been taken and then patched with even more characters, more special characters. We're not gonna install fonts in this video. You can figure out how to do this without me. So if I'm going to go over here, it's kind of important to know that that you're using Oh My ZSH, and therefore you need to find the paragraph that explains how to install it for Oh My ZSH. Okay, so we're going to go down. The first option is basically install it for the regular ZSH, but it's always pretty much like cloning into some directory. Okay, and the second one is installing for Oh My ZSH. Okay, so if I'm just going to copy that, right? So you need git, right? Copy this line. But if you look at this line, basically it clones this repository essentially into a folder called Oh My ZSH custom themes, right? And it just creates another directory in there. Okay, so we're gonna go over here. I'm just gonna paste that. Okay, and in the meantime, I'm actually gonna go and minimize that, and I'm gonna go to my zshrc. So it will actually create a folder called power level 9K, and inside of it, 9K, and inside of it there's going to be a theme called power level 9K, like this. In fact, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go into that folder, right? So Oh My ZSH, and then custom, and then themes, and I'm going to do LL, and you're going to see, so it's actually an entire directory, right? So usually a theme is just one file, but this one is kind of heavy. Okay, so let me restart the terminal. Let me do that. And as you can see, this is the power level 9K. So it has stuff on the left, it has stuff on the right. It looks a bit similar to Agnoster, right? So if you're going to go to dev, collections library, right? Very, very similar, right? So it's basically an improvement, right? So it shows you the timestamp. It shows you, this is like which command it is in history, right? So remember, if you type in history, we should see 247. Okay, so the current one is 2478. The previous one was 2477. Okay, let's do Control L, and it also shows you that the command succeeded, right? So if I do Control C, it should probably be red, right? And you see the error code, right? So it's kind of bulky for me. It doesn't have like much space to type. In fact, Power Level 9K is a very, very customizable theme, right? So we just installed it, but we can actually go and configure the hell out of it, and it will actually look very, very different. But at least for now, it's a single line theme, and if I start typing something that is longer than the right one, it's going to disappear. I believe this actually comes from ZSH. Okay, like this. Cool. All right, so let's minimize that. And the theme that I like is a bit minimalistic, and it's called In the Loop. In the Loop, like this. Okay, so let's restart the terminal. It's kind of minimalistic, looks very, very similar to Bash. In the previous video, you've seen that I customize it a little bit. In fact, I'm going to show you how to customize it. So all we need to do is we need to find it, right, in the Oh My ZSH themes folder, and just copy it into Oh My ZSH custom themes folder. Okay, so all we need to do is we need to copy dot oh my zsh. It's kind of cold in here to type. All right, so it's going to be a theme, and it's going to be called In the Loop. So we're going to copy that. Let me actually maximize it. So we're going to copy that again into dot oh my zsh into not dot custom themes, like this. Okay, so now if we're going to go over here, Oh My ZSH custom themes. Okay, we're gonna see, okay, we have the directory power level 9K, we have the example theme, and we have the in the loop theme, right? And because I'm already using it in my zshrc, right, so because the names are matching, it's just gonna go straight to this file, which means that we can just go in there and start hacking on it. So I'm gonna open it with Sublime, right? So in the there's no dot, in the loop theme. Okay, like this. Okay, so hold up, let me minimize that, like this. Let me actually maximize, not maximize. Okay, so hold on, let me put this on the right, like this. Control L. In fact, I'm gonna go into my home directory. Okay, so this is how it looks like. I'm gonna maximize Sublime just real quick. So this is, just 23 lines, and it basically says, okay, so this is gonna be the prompt. Notice, for example, that that there's a line break over here. Okay, so this is line 10 and this is line 11, which is also why the prompt always has this empty line, which means if I press enter, there will always be an empty line before. Okay, so you can start hacking over here, right? So for example, you can remove this empty line, or you can understand, okay, so there's actually on the second line, there is this weird character, and it's displayed in cyan, right? So for example, you can do magenta. Okay, I'm gonna close that. start that, and all of a sudden it's going to be magenta, right? So you have seen, for example, in my theme, for example, I removed these, these curly, these brackets, not curly. I removed these brackets, but I reused the gray color for the @ symbol. In fact, we can actually do this over here. I'm actually going to zoom in. So you always have like the percentage symbol and then some command, right? So it goes until here, right? So this is basically the first command. In fact, let me zoom in a little bit like this, maybe even more like that. Okay, so it basically says display the foreground in bold gray, right? And then display the bracket. And so these are the so-called ANSI codes. And the way it works is this is basically a code, so right, it's just a sequence of characters. As soon as the terminal sees it, everything after it is going to be displayed in this color. And therefore, you also have a special sequence to reset the color, right? So which is why you always have this pattern. Okay, there will be some color, then there will be something to display in that color, and then there will be, this color will be reset. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut that out. This first part was the bold gray color. Okay, and I'm going to find the @ symbol, which is over there, and I'm going to go. So this is like, for example, this is my name, and then there's an @ symbol, and there's a machine, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to go into @. I'm going to say, okay, please do it gray. Okay, then I'm gonna remove this curly brace. Sorry, not the curly brace, the regular brace, and I'm gonna cut out this color until here. Okay, I'm gonna cut it out, and I'm going to put it over here after the @. Okay, so we're gonna have this basically gray @ and then the color should be reset. And also at the end, we actually don't need the closing bracket, which is over here. It starts over here, goes until here, right? So this line, this thing that I marked, right, it basically says foreground bold gray, display this bracket, and then reset the color. Okay, so if I remove that, then we're going to have a space, right? So now if I'm going to start a new terminal, we're going to see that this is exactly what happened. See, I actually made a mistake. Okay, I made a mistake that I forgot to also, because I resetted the color, and now at the dev inside you use white. It should have been actually green. Okay, but at least the curly braces were gone. So all we need to do is we need to go into probably this host color. Right, because my name is displayed in green, so I need to go to the host color like that over here, and I'm gonna need to find over here. Oh, actually, no, I want to reset the color over here. This is where I need it. Okay, this is where I need it. I'm gonna put it over there. Let's see if I did it right. Control Alt T, and yeah, it looks like I did it right. Okay, so I'm gonna close this one. Right, so if you can compare these, right, so the brackets are gone, but the @ is not now gray, right? And I changed this to magenta, right? You can change everything you want, right? You can, for example, do this, okay, right? And now it's gonna look like that. It's just a the simple symbol, greater or else, whatever. Okay, so in fact, I'm gonna actually go back all of these modifications. I'm gonna revert them. Okay, so this is the default theme, but this is essentially how you can customize themes. If you're working with power level 9K, it is actually gonna be a bit more tricky to customize because there are weird like symbols to do like line breaks and all of that. But yeah, there are a bunch of super cool configurations for power level 9K. Just Google for it, you're gonna find it, and then you're probably gonna spend a week or so tweaking your own theme, and it's gonna look amazing, I'm sure. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do is we're actually gonna look at the zshrc file, and we're gonna look and see what what Oh My ZSH actually did. Okay, so we're setting the theme, and basically it gives you a bunch of things that you can uncomment. So for example, here, uncomment the following line to use case sensitive completion. And if you're not a programmer, uncommenting means removing this, right? So it's a bash thing, right? In fact, in Sublime or in Visual Studio Code, you can press Control / and it will uncomment, right? So it goes back and forth. Okay. So for example, uncomment the following line to use case sensitive completion. Well, actually, this is the opposite of what I want. I'm actually happy with this. Okay, uncomment the following line to use -insensitive completion. Yeah, that's actually cool, right? So it basically means that whenever you have some file which uses an underscore, you can actually use hyphen and it will still complete correctly. Okay, disable auto update. No, not really. Disable update prompt. Yeah, I actually want to disable it, and I actually want to update my ZSH every day, like this, right? I don't know, magic functions, disable colors, no. Um, enable correction. Oh yeah, so this is one of the things that comes with ZSH, that it autocorrects your commands, but it actually kind of slows you down because you type in something wrong and then it says, hey, should I autocomplete, should I fix it for you? And it can be like, no, or, sometimes it basically slows you down. So this is a very controversial setting. A lot of people actually don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, completion waiting dots, right? So it has auto completion, but while it completes, it can actually show you the dots. I find it a bit distracting. Um, yeah, so you can uncomment this line if you have if you're working with gigantic Git repositories, version control repositories, and and it sort of slows down your shell. Okay, you can change the timestamps. You can move the location of the custom folder. Right, so remember we have the Oh My ZSH custom and then plugins and themes. You can move it to somewhere else. In fact, this is going to be a little bit important a bit later in the video when we're going to start talking about the plugins. And by the way, plugins. So Oh My ZSH comes with a bunch of plugins, right? So the same as for themes, as you can see, there's plugins and there's custom plugins, right? So just go in here and with spaces, you enable a bunch of them, right? So you can do git, docker, extract, I believe, right? So just make sure to delimit them with spaces, or in fact, most people do this with line breaks, okay? So you can also do this, git, docker, like this, and usually, I highly recommend that you also sort this F9 and Sublime source things. We're going to talk about the plugins a bit later. So for now, let me actually just have Git in there. And by the way, this is a tiny thing that I'm going to show you already. So it actually has Git auto completions, right? So if I'm going to go and do git I and I press tab, it shows me, okay, these are the commands that start with I, for example, init or a, and there's add, apply, and gives you a tiny description, right? So a lot of plugin, I would actually say most of the plugins, what they do is actually they provide auto completion. Okay, for different things, like for example for Docker or for different things. Okay, let me do Control L. We're going to talk about plugins in just a second. Let me actually go and finish looking at this. So it actually sources another file called Oh My ZSH shell. I actually looked into it. There's nothing special in there. It's just a bunch of Oh My ZSH stuff. It's actually not ZSH settings, I believe. Yeah, so basically you can just finish. Oh, okay, we're pretty much finished looking at it. So the last thing that it shows you basically says, okay, now you can create a bunch of aliases if you like. And this is actually, the first thing that I did, because when you're switching from Bash, you might have Bash aliases, right? And you can do something like this. So you can say, so if the file exists under home slash, and if it's called bash aliases, right? So if it exists, okay, then you can just then you can source it, right? So you can just source this file, and it's actually called, hold up, it's called aliases, like this, source, and let's not forget to do fi, right? So if this file exists, it will be sourced, and your bash aliases will actually work with ZSH as well. All right, so let's finally start talking about plugins. So we're going to go up over here. So as I already explained, they're basically pretty much over there. We can in fact actually go in there, cd.onmyzsh plugins. And if you do LL, you're going to see like a bunch of them, and you can go into, I don't know, Xcode, for example. They usually sort of, I'm not sure if they're forced, but it's like highly recommended for them to have a README file, right? So if you can, for example, we can open this README file with Sublime, and we're going to see, okay, this plugin provides a few utilities that can help you out on your daily use of Xcode and iOS development. Okay, I don't know what it actually is, but if we open that, so this is supposed to look like a table. So if I decrease my font, it's actually going to start looking like a table. Okay, so this is what it does. In fact, let's actually open Git. Okay, so we're going to go into Git like this, and we're going to do subl readme. Okay, so it's going to say, okay, so this is the plugin that provides many aliases and a few useful functions. Okay, again, this thing is supposed to look like a table. Let me actually make this super small so that it actually, looks like a table, like this. Okay, so this is super small and you can't read this. For example, instead of Git, you can always just say G, right? So instead of Git status, you can do G status. Okay, or I don't know, instead of Git branch, you can just say you can just do GB. So it's a bunch of them. And also another way to list all of them is actually, if I go over here, I'm gonna maximize this. Okay, so if you just type in alias, it's going to list all the aliases. If you're going to type in alias G, for example, it's going to say, okay, there's an alias called G, and this is what it's going to do. It's going to do Git. Okay, and another way is to list basically all of them that have that are sort of related to Git. You can do alias and just pipe it into grep Git like this, right? And it will show you a bunch of them. This is my favorite one, by the way. Basically it says Git work in progress, right? So every time you're doing something and then you receive a call, you have to leave somewhere, or you have to turn off your laptop. I'm always paranoid, right? I don't want to lose my changes, right? So I just type in gwip, right? Git work in progress, and it adds all the files. It removes everything that is that was supposed to be deleted. It pipes the output into nowhere. It commits stuff in such a way that even if you push it, if your continuous integration server is configured properly, it's actually not going to touch this. Okay, so this is what I always do. I always, if it's on my branch, I always push whatever the hell I want. After that, I'm rebasing and cleaning everything up. Okay, so essentially, this is the Git plugin, and this is how you work with plugins in Oh My ZSH, right? So you just go to this plugins folder, you read a bunch of readmes. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to start using my settings. And if you have seen my video about synchronizing dot files and all of these things, you're going to understand what I'm doing. But essentially, what I'm doing is I'm going into the terminal. And I'm doing a couple of things. By the way, if you're using way too many plugins, then it's going to slow down the startup of your shell. So be very, very careful with it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the .zshrc file, and I'm also going to remove the Oh My ZSH custom themes in the loop theme. Okay. So now basically all the settings are gone. Okay, and I can go into my .files into the stove directory, and I can just say please stove vt like that zsh. So if you have seen my my videos about synchronizing .files, what just happened was basically I created two symlinks for my zshrc file and for my custom theme, right? So if I'm going to restart that, you're going to see that it's now using my custom theme as it looks pretty much the same as we configured it before. And also it tells me that it couldn't find a couple of plugins because some of the plugins actually don't come from Oh My ZSH. I installed them manually, and we're going to get to that. Okay, so now let's go into Sublime zshrc. Okay, so this is the file that we had before. Okay, I'm going to actually put this on the right. I don't know why it doesn't like that. Okay, let me increase the font again. This is barely readable. Okay, so I'm gonna go until the plugins, and we're gonna go through a couple of my plugins. All right, so Docker is kind of boring. It basically gives you auto completions for Docker commands. Okay, so we can do Docker, I don't know, attach. Okay, Docker S maybe. Yeah, so there's save, search, secret, blah blah blah. A bunch of commands. Okay, the other one is actually kind of cool. So the other one is called .env, which stands for dot environment, and basically it says that if you have let me just show this to you. So I'm going to create a folder called whatever. I'm going to switch into it. So if you have a file, I'm going to just do this foo equals bar, and I'm just going to pipe that into a file called .env. So if you have a file called .env and you have whatever you have in there, it actually doesn't matter what you have in there. Okay, so if I cut it into that, this is the only thing that it actually has. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna disable this plugin first. I'm gonna disable that. I'm gonna close that. I'm gonna start it again. I'm gonna go into cd whatever. Okay, so I have this. Oh, actually, I had it before. Hold on. Remove whatever. Okay, rm-rf. Whatever. Okay, so let's do this again. So I'm going to do take whatever, and I'm going to echo foo equals bar. I'm going to put that into the .env. Okay, so this is the only thing that I have in there. Let's do al so that it actually shows it to me because it's it's a hidden file. Let's actually do that. Okay, control L. Okay, al. Okay, so there's a .env file in there. So if I cut into that, I'm going to see that there's a foo bar. Okay, but now if I do echo foo, it's actually not going to show it to me, right? So this also means that if you're in in a Scala application, for example, in Ammonite, right? So if you go in there and you do system dot, I believe it's get env, right? So if you do foo, it's not going to be there. Okay, it's going to say that it's not. However, with this plugin, right? This will actually work, right? So this plugin basically notices like every time you switch into a directory, right? So let's do this. Echo foo, right? It's not there, but if I cd and whatever, just because I have this file in there, right? Just because I have this file in there, echo foo is going to work now, right? Which means that I can go into Ammonite, or you can start your application and you can do system get environment variable foo, and it's actually going to find it, and it's actually going to show me bar, and I have no idea why it just took so many seconds to load. Okay, let's close that. Okay, let's see. The next one is extract. Extract is actually my favorite one. It's a pain in the ass to unzip files in the Linux world because there are so many archive managers. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take whatever. right? Because it still exists. Okay, in fact, let me remove the .env file. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Okay, so a bunch of files in there. In fact, let me actually maximize this. Okay, so we're in whatever, it has a bunch of files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zip them all into a file called blah.zip, and I'm going to zip all of them. Okay, like this, zip blah.zip. Okay, so if I do ll, we're going to see that there is an archive in there, right? So now I don't have to learn how to unzip it. I don't need to understand which archive it is. I can just go in. I can say extract blah.zip, bam, and now I created a folder called blah in there, bam, and everything is in there. How awesome. Okay, let's go back to my home folder, remove the whole whatever thing like this. All right, let's see. Okay, so we already talked about Git. We haven't talked about Mosh, but Mosh is basically a replacement for SSH, and the Mosh plugin basically gives me the auto completions. Timer basically shows me how long it took to execute a command. So for example, if I'm gonna go into htop and I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm gonna exit and it's gonna tell me, okay, it took like pretty much 4 seconds, right? 3.9 seconds. Very, very useful when when you're downloading something, or I don't know, whatever you do. It's basically every time you're running some command, it shows you how long it took. In fact, I have a couple of aliases. If I do alias IPP, you're going to see that I have an alias that would basically curl into ipecho.net and just print it out, right? So if I do IPP, it will show me my address, and it took 0.6 seconds, right? IPP, right? So if you want to steal this alias, feel free. Basically, everything that I'm doing these days is open source. All right, let's keep going. I believe that the only 3 that are left are the ones that we're seeing on startup, right? So it basically says, hey, I can't find these plugins, right? And installing custom plugins for Oh My ZSH is very simple. You basically clone some repository into the Oh My ZSH custom plugins folder in this case. Okay, I have scripts for all of these. So if we go into my Windows over here, remember we looked for ZSH over here, right? So we have all the 3 of them. So I'm gonna do auto suggestions, then syntax highlighting, and then Z. Okay, so auto suggestions, as always, just copy these 2 lines. I'm actually going to show you what the script is doing. And by the way, there's a tiny part of here which is related to bash scripting, and I'm actually going to explain this to you a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in like crazy. In fact, I don't need that. Okay. So basically what it's doing, it's cloning a repository and it puts it into a target folder. And this is a little bit of bash scripting, so I want to show it to you. So it basically says for the target folder, right? So it basically does git clone source target. Okay, so for the target folder, it says, okay, look in the environment variable called ZSH custom. And if it is not there, or if it is there but it is empty, right? So this colon makes sure that this rule applies also if it's empty. This hyphen means then, right? In this case, use this as the default. Okay, so it's going to use that if the variable is there and if it's not empty because of the colon, right? If you don't have the colon, right, it's just going to only apply if the environment variable is not there, right? So there's a difference, not there and being empty, right? Then it's going to use this, right? So it's basically designed in such a way that remember in your .zshrc file you could specify where you want to move your custom folder. In my case, I didn't do any of that, so yeah, so it's pretty much useless. Okay, so let's go out and go back. So it's these 2 lines. I'm going to copy them. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to paste them, press enter, enter my password, wait a couple of seconds. All right, so I'm just going to restart the shell, and what we see now is that I'm only missing 2 of them. Okay, so the one that I have is auto suggestions, and basically what it does, it basically looks into my history. For example, if I do cd dev, right, so it knows that I have been into the homegrown collections directory. Also, let's actually go into, I don't know, etc. No, something, yeah. So for example, over there, right? So I can use a control and arrow key to just move a little bit, or I can just press so the arrow key was to the right, okay? Or I can just press the arrow key to the right and it will auto-complete the whole thing, and I can just go in there, okay? Let's go back over here. So this is auto suggestions. The next one is syntax highlighting, right? So syntax highlighting. So let's go over there. This is syntax highlighting over there. Same thing. Just these 2 lines is doing exactly the same thing. By the way, I haven't actually showed it to you, so I'm going to press that, my password, Control Alt T. In the meantime, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go into Oh My ZSH custom plugins like this. Okay, so basically just copy them over there, right? nothing major. Okay, so copy them. I'm going to restart. So as you can see, ZSH Z is the only one that is missing. And so what I'm going to show you is that basically it has syntax highlighting for commands. So it basically shows you when you're doing something wrong. So for example, if I'm doing git init, it's going to, because it's green, it's going to tell me that it's going to succeed. But if I do git, I don't know, S or something, it's going to say, hey, what the hell is this? This is, however, not super useful for like unless you're doing bash scripting, right? So for example, if you do okay, so if we do md whatever, right? So if I do cd whatever, it's going to say, hey, it's going to succeed. But if I do whatever too, it says that it's also going to succeed even though the directory doesn't exist, right? So this is only useful if you're actually doing bash scripting, right? So if I do for I in, oh, by the way, this, see, like this is so awesome, right? So this auto suggestions plugin, it showed me, hey, you typed this thing before. I'm pressing right, and we have syntax highlighting over here, right? So this is what it's for. And the last one is going to be zshrc, zshrc. This is an awesome plugin. So we're going to install it over here like this. By the way, now we have syntax highlighting. As you can see, like this is going to succeed. Like for example, it shows that this is rad because it says, hey, this file is not there, but it will be there once we finish downloading it. Okay, so this command actually is going to succeed. So as I already said, it's like moderately useful if you're not doing any bash scripting. Okay, so now I'm going to restart, and now all of my settings are in here, and Z basically does fuzzy searching for the directories that I have been to, right? So if I can do Z call, for example, it's just gonna jump in there, which is super awesome. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're actually gonna go into my zshrc file, and we're gonna see what I added to my settings. I didn't do much, and everything that I did is at the bottom. And by the way, all of my dot files are public. You can find them on your own. So pretty much this is what I did. So I have auto completion for bloop. I have auto completion for Scala fix, and I'm pretty sure that I already mentioned this is mostly a Scala channel. So yeah, I'm ignoring one of the completions so that I can, so if I do BL, if I do tab, or BLO, if I do tab, that it actually goes to bloop and it doesn't actually go to block dev. Okay, that was actually a bad example. So if I do BLO and I do tab, it should autocomplete bloop, and it used to autocomplete block dev as well, and then I would need to select. It's kind of annoying. Okay, I have the ones for stove, right? So basically I do stove, and I say the target is the home directory, right? So you have seen how I applied my settings before, right? So I went into dot files into stove, right? So before I did stove, like I did that thing, and I didn't need to do it. Like if I had my aliases, I would just need to do that, right? Stove th, right? As you can see, it understands aliases as well, right? Stove and unstove, okay? So what else? Oh, I have GitHub clone. Okay, so if I cd into dev and I remove homegrown collections, I can actually do GitHub -clone, and as you can see, auto suggestions is freaking awesome. I just press right. So basically, it's gonna expand these things to a URL, right? So if I just do this, dev inside your homegrown collections, it's just gonna find it. It's gonna clone it, and by the way, at the end, it is also going to cd in there. Okay. Yeah. Sure. What does it want? Okay, it wants my key, this one. Okay, so it's gonna clone some stuff. In the meantime, I'm gonna scroll down. It can also clone with HTTPS. Okay, so the thing that I did was control backslash that we talked about in the previous video, right? So control backslash, it's a widget, right? So what it does is whenever I press it, like whatever is typed in, it will put cd dot dot in there, right? So if I do that, it just removed everything, put cd dot dot in there, and then it asked a ZSH. There's a tool called ZLE. You can read the man pages for ZSH if you want to, dive in depths in there, right? And it says accept line. So it basically presses enter for you, right? So it removes anything that you have there, puts cd dot dot, presses enter. Okay. This line basically registers this widget, and this one is the one that binds the key, right? So this is, in my case, this is control. So what I do is I want to do control backslash, but backslash is a special character, and therefore you need to escape it like this. Okay, up widget. Okay, and this is also the point. Remember that I said that in bash, if you type some long command, right, the control U, it will remove only from the cursor to the beginning of the line, but in ZSH it actually removes the entire line like this. This is also the place how this is how you would do how you would fix it sort of in such a way that it would behave like bash. So we can do bind key, and we're going to say I want to do control, right? So this is shift and 6, and I'm going to do U, right? So this is control U, and the command is going to be backward hyphen kill hyphen line like this. I'm going to save that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to say this is a long line like this. And if I'm going to go over here and I'm going to press Control U, now it's not going to remove the entire line. It's going to remove only, you know, what was before the cursor. I actually don't like this. I kind of used to, I'm kind of used to removing the whole line. Okay, like this. Let's kill it. Let's restart it. Okay, over here I'm basically sourcing my bash aliases, and over here I'm sourcing my FCF key bindings. FCF is actually a really cool tool. I'm gonna actually you know, I spontaneously decided that I'm gonna show it to you by the end of this video, and we're going to talk about it in a second. Okay, and then I'm basically just sourcing if I have, you know, a local zshrc file, right? Because I'm synchronizing my dot files, but sometimes I don't want that. Okay, so FZF, we're pretty much at the end of the video. Okay, so FZF is a super cool tool. I just discovered it. I'm you know, pretty much a noob in FZF, so it's really, you know, massively powerful, but I know like teeny tiny bit. So FZF is a fuzzy searcher, right? So basically, you give it some sort of list, and it can search this list for you. It has plugins for Vim and for all those sort of things. And so it also has an integration with ZSH. So for example, if I do, here's the thing, there's this command to restart the Bloop server. Okay, so the command is system control user restart Bloop. So as you have seen, you know, auto suggestions was really helpful, but still I needed to know that this command starts with system control. Okay, so if I type in something like restart, it's not useful. Okay, we can do Control R, and I'm gonna do something like restart Bloop. Okay, and it's gonna find it, right? But if I'm gonna do Bloop restart, then it's not gonna find it, right? So it's like moderately useful. If I have FZF installed, and in fact, let's go and install it. I'm gonna go over here, so I'm just gonna go into install dev inside you, and I'm gonna type in FCF. Again, I just started playing with it. Okay, I'm just gonna copy that, and I'm going to paste it over here like this. All right, my password. It's gonna clone that. It's gonna do stuff. Okay, so FCF is not a plugin for ZSH. FCF is absolutely not related to ZSH, right? But at the end, it says, do you want to enable fuzzy auto completion? Oh, yes. Do you want to enable key bindings? I'm going to say yes. Okay, so now I generated the key bindings for bash and for ZSH. Okay, do you want to update your shell configuration files? I'm going to say yes, but I actually don't like this. So what it did is at the end of my zshrc file, I actually put this in there. And I actually kind of don't like this because, like, so this is an alternative syntax. It basically says, okay, if this succeeds, right? So, and this is a command that checks if the file is there, only then source that. However, if it does not succeed, then the return code will be non-zero, and it's going to fuck up my shell. Okay. So instead, I'm using this syntax, right? So I'm going to remove this line. I did not need that. Okay. So I'm going to press Control-Alt. I'm going to go into full screen. Okay, so FCF is basically a search tool. So if I do FCF, it basically goes in there and indexes everything that is in my, where am I actually? I'm in my home folder. Okay, so if I do FCF, I believe it indexes like all kinds of files, and I can just keep typing, right? So for example, I can type in collections, right? And I can press enter, and it will just show me this line that was in there. If I do LL and I type it I pipe it into FCF, right? So it sees these lines, right? So it doesn't show you, like, it will not be able to jump into this directory, like was the way I did it, right? It literally shows you the lines, right? So just receive the list, and I can go through this list. And I can, and by the way, I can actually click with my mouse. Super cool, right? So let's say this one. I press enter. It will literally just show me this line, right? So it will just give me this line and put it in there. Okay. However, it integrates with ZSH. So now if I do Control R, it actually pipes it into FZF, right? So I can do Control R, and whatever I do, right? So I do restart Bloop, it's gonna find it. If I do Bloop restart, it's still gonna find it, which is cool. So I press enter, and it shows me this command, and actually it can restart Bloop, right? So FZF is super cool. I'm a total noob. I don't know anything about it, but it integrates really well with ZSH, and so I spontaneously decided to show it to you. And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you today. Originally, this was supposed to be only one video about ZSH, but then I realized that my videos are usually very, very long, and so I decided to split them into two, and I believe these two are still kind of very long, but, you know, I'm trying to make them shorter, and I'm failing every time. In any case, that's all I got for you today. As always, it's been Vlad, devinside.com. Don't forget to like this video if you did, subscribe if you want to improve the developer inside you, and if you learned something today, consider support me on Patreon. But most importantly, take care.